Hi and Assalamualaikum to Dr. Shawat and to all my classmates. Today me and my team members will be presenting on the food security and the air pollution. And first and foremost, my name is Muhammad Sharniza bin Muhammad Yunus, the presenter that will be presenting on the parts of introduction, environmental pathway and the downstream intervention. The introduction. Food security is considered as a circumstance in which all individuals have physical, social and economic exposure to enough safe and proper nutrition that always matches their dietary needs and food choices for an activity and a healthy life, as stated by Food Agriculture Organization in 2006, meaning that the food security is important to all individuals without looking at their backgrounds, as the food security is to ensure each of them get the access to have the same food and nutrition to do the human healthy lifestyle. Furthermore, food is our supply energy to do any kind of activities, and lack of access to it has a variety negative of impacts for our health. And for your information, there is about 1 billion people worldwide are malnourished due to the lack of appropriate food to meet their nutritional demands, as been stated by Barrett in 2010. Besides, population growth, climate change, and industrialization are three worldwide concerns that have an impact on food security, as stated by Harvard in 2011. But now, with the current global pandemic, which is to be known as COVID-19, has become the most concern not only those in low-income countries, but also the developed and the developing countries, as it affects all kinds of individuals all around the world. And to combat the spread of the epidemic, many countries order generalized lockdowns and quarantines for their people. There is no such economy to open during the lockdown, as stated by Abdullah in 2020. Thus, the food supply chain economy has been increasingly threatened by the unplanned shutdown of manpower and facilities. The example of country that is severely affected of the food security by the pandemic is India. To highlight it that on the 24th March 2020, India has enforced one of the world's largest and toughest lockdowns in reaction and to combat the COVID-19 outbreak, as stated by the BBC News in 2020. Even before the lockdown, or way back before the COVID-19 pandemic, India's food security situation was already at their terrible. India has some of the worst hunger figures in the world. For example, nearly 38% of children under the age of 5 are stunned, which is their height is too small for their age, and 20.8% more are wasting their weight that is not suitable for their height.
एक्चुअली ये बताओ, सुबह से हम लोग भूखे हैं, सुबह अब ये खाना मिल रहा है, आपके सामने ये दाल चावल है, क्या इस खाना से गुजारा हो जाएंगे, पेट भर जाएंगे?
As expressed by someone in Allahabad, India, who said, "I know everything about coronavirus. It is extremely dangerous and the rest of the planet is in chaos. People like us, on the other hand, must choose between safety and starvation. What do you think we should do?"
बहुत दिक्कत हो रहा, खाना नहीं मिल रहा, पानी नहीं मिल रहा, बच्चों को दूध नहीं मिल रहा, कुछ नहीं मिल रहा, क्या समझे? बहुत दिक्कत हो रहा.
This all has shown that India is one of the top countries that is facing the food security during the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's all from me for the part introduction. We'll move to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Faizal bin Baharin, and I will proceed about the issue that arise in food security crisis in India during the outbreak of COVID-19.
As a course of action to break the chain of the COVID-19, ruling government had to address certain mitigation action to control this pandemic as the best solution. This action need to be taken into account because it has been announced by WHO as a global pandemic and a deadly virus. This outbreak has created a chaos situation because of the uncertainty period of the outbreak. Food was a daily consumption consumed by each and every people. Thus, when this kind of situation hits, everyone were unprepared and the food security and safety were questioned. It becomes a major concern in certain countries like India, where the number of cases are extremely high, where all industries are forced to restrict their operations. COVID-19 has had a significant impact on the global pace of supply chains, as the lockdown has brought them to a virtual standstill and has imbalanced demand and supply cycles, drowning them in the shadow of losses.
Apart from the chaos conditions among the supply chain industry, the consumer also in a crisis conditions. As the government of India floated the norms related to social distancing, fear of spread of the virus, and movement restrictions, Indian markets and its consumer develop a habit of panic buying. These situations create a threat to the food security of India and raise the prices of food items, which led to woes for the upcoming time span. This disruption jeopardized the nation's food security, causing resentment in society. Food safety is linked to the roots of food security, so current conditions have an impact on both dimensions, safety and security. The second issue arises is farm disruption. Majorly, about 70% of population in rural India are engaged with agricultural activities. However, this outbreak of COVID-19 debarred farmers' movement to their fields and hinder the process of crop harvesting. This issue causes a big loss to the farmers and further added to the woes for farmers' effort. Moreover, the process of selling and buying of harvested crop had to be stopped for a while due to the market close. This market closure make it difficult for the crop to sell, and at the end, it was wasted. The third issue arises is production rate of food is slower. The decision of implementing a lockdown has caused a serious impact on food supply chain, and it is more felt to the food supply company as their production rate decreased due to the shortage of workforce. The uncertain period of lockdown are not only reduced production rate, but it slowed down the whole process of it slowed down all the process and operation protocols, including logistics. The next issue pertaining food security during the outbreak of COVID-19 is market closure. It's such a losses for retailer and distributor as the market is closed and there is no exchange of goods take place. Last but not least, the issue that arises pertaining food security in India during this hard time is limited functionality of food industry. Closure of various eating ventures, restaurants and hotels has minimized the availability of food which were highly consumed in urban lifestyle. Closure of food eateries might be a driving factors for the community to not achieving dietary needs, and it goes against the true meaning of food security. However, the decision made by ruling government might be the best option available to protect the people from this deadly pandemic. And as time goes by, food supply chain will recover and the shortage of demand will be reduced. Next, I move forward to the option for intervention. Relief intervention are needed to counter the outbreak of COVID-19. Such intervention that government can implement is financial relief. During the lockdown period, businesses experienced tremendous disruption in their operations, which had a significant impact on their economy. The government should provide relief to affected units by lowering or eliminate various types of tax slabs, and backlog of goods and services tax refund should be addressed as soon as possible. Commercial establishments should be provided with interest-free, with longer payback periods and relaxation in the payment of electricity bills, subsidization of salary bills, and reducing of various licenses for the next few months. Secondly, detailing of essential commodities by Ministry of Food Processing Industries. When the lockdown was announced, the government relaxed the vital goods to a limited amount, but there was misunderstanding among producers as to whether their product was included in the list of essential commodities or not, because each state has its own definition of critical commodities. Ministry of Food Processing Industry under Government of India should consolidate a list or a framework that clearly defines the difference between essential and non-essential commodities, and the same should be followed uniformly by all states and union territories to eliminate such disparities and enable last mile delivery of commodities in such difficult times. The third one is adoption of digital modes of operation. To avoid physical touch, a digital ordering, tracking and payment platform should be expanded. This will reduce people's dreads of personal contact, and they will be able to have products delivered to their door. People who distribute products should be allowed to move freely during a lockdown. To encourage the usage of debit cards, credit cards and e-wallets, and unique payment interface scan codes, the government should also remove the tax and charges that are imposed on their purchase. The fourth one is decentralization of the food product sale and purchase points in market perspective. Decentralization of the associated point is essential to preserve the social distance rules and to prevent people from congregating in large numbers to sell and buy food items. Decentralization will broaden the network of dealers, allowing people to be channeled and many farmers to find ways to sell their products. It will limit people's footfall at certain point of trade, hence reducing panic buying practices as product availability and market accessibility will be increased. The fifth and the last one is reduction in foreign direct investment limits in food products allied units. As we know, companies are battling a lot due to numerous losses and finding it very difficult to control their expenses in light of the setback brought to various food industries in India by the COVID-19 outbreak. Many food industries in India operate on a small and medium size and have limited working capital. Hence, to protect their interests and ensure greater future opportunities, the FDI limit in this area should be reduced. Reducing FDI will stimulate demand for local products even more, and Indian company operating profits will skyrocket, propelling them out of the period of losses and interruptions.
The food process is first to start with the farmers, who focus on the land food like vegetables, fruits, rice fields, and others. All these producers are responsible in providing the good quality of food safety as what has been said by the body authorities. The next stage is the food processing. At the stage of food processing, the individuals at this stage will change the raw food into an edible form. The food processing here is also focusing on the packaging of the food, and all the things that need to be done at the food processing need to follow the guidelines and the standards set to ensure the safety of the food.
And the next process is food storage, also can be known as the distributors, to distribute the food from the factory to the retailers. The call as distributors need to have the main center to keep all the foods, because to ensure the enough of the food for the people. Next stage is the retailers. The food will be delivered to the retailers at the supermarkets. Furthermore, the retailers must always keep goods on hand and sell it in lesser quantities to the general community, as this to maintain enough stock of food at the stores. And the last stage is the consumers. The consumers must have to consume on the best and quality food provided. The part of customer here is they must make sure on what food they consume every day is actually safe for their lifestyle.
The effect of COVID-19 on the food supply chain is big and scary, as it will result in labor movement restrictions, changes in consumer demand, limited food trade policies, and financial strains in the food supply chain. This is the diagram of the pathway of food security during the pandemic of COVID-19 in India. The first stage is on the farmers, where in India, about 17% of the population is estimated to be actively involved in farming activities. The outbreak in COVID-19 has limited the movement of people into their fields, and in fact, it was the time when their corn crops were at the harvesting stage in India. Thus, the disruption at the first stage have put the nation at risk. Second is the food processing, where mostly they need to have enough manpower to do the job. The closures of food production facilities have made it difficult for the factory to check the quality of the food. The third is on the distribution and the storage. Different forms of transport causing disturbance in the food supply chain caused by the lockdown, which prevented goods from being supplied to the vendor. Moreover, the most affected commodities in India are bread, milk products, fruit and vegetables, and frozen food supplies, which, because of lack of transport facilities, find it very difficult to operate. Next is the retailers. It is to be related with the market closure in India. People who raise livestock have been affected by market disruptions because they are facing a severe lack of orders and cow feeds, which has harmed the health of their livestock. And lastly is on the consumer, which will be mostly affected in the food security during the pandemic. The COVID-19 has seriously affected the continuing global pace of supply chains, as the lockdown has stopped them and imbalanced the cycles of demand and supply, causing them to lose.
Next, I will proceed to the upstream engagement.
A growing number of countries are experiencing extreme food insecurity, even after up to many years of development progress. COVID-19 impacts have led to severe and widespread increases in global food security, affecting vulnerable households in almost every country, with impact expected to continue through 2021 and into 2022.
In building back and reduce the catastrophe and to save millions of people life and livelihoods, financial aid from IMF and World Bank are much needed. IMF and World Bank need to respond with decisive action by pledging financial support in the hundreds of billion dollars. The World Bank has responded to this emerging food security crisis by providing $5.3 billion between April and September 2020 for food security. This has been accomplished through a combination of short-term COVID-19 actions and long-term investment to address the root causes of food insecurity. In a nutshell, the deployed assistance shows that the World Banks are very committed in helping countries in strengthening their food security.
Therefore, India has taken the proactive measures to contain the spread of COVID-19, and the first one is food and nutrition security. By way of public distribution system and food civil supply corporation of states, the government of India and several state governments in partnership with local administration has issued food packets containing goods of everyday household usage. The second intervention is cash transfer. Intervention taken by the government is to give out cash by online transfer to those people. Unemployed women workers require cash assistance, and thus the government has granted about $6.16 each month to the 200 million women's bank accounts through the Jan Dhan Social Investment Initiative. And lastly is engagement with non-government organization (NGO). Many non-profit religious institutions, non-governmental organizations (NGOs), and volunteers expanded operations by providing the cooked food packages at every mealtime and several aid kitchens. These efforts made is to feed
Hi, my name is Muhammad Imran bin Razid. Today I will present about the one section about the air pollution in Kabul, Afghanistan. So I will start with the introduction. Afghanistan, with an estimate size of 6 million people, is facing the worst air pollution this year. This has made the country as one of the 10 most polluted cities in the world, as said by a report of an American institution that has been published. The air pollution in Kabul is different with the other polluted city, as in Kabul is a seasonal pollution, because during the season of the winter, the air pollution in Kabul is increasing, as this is because the use of low quality fuel by its people who stay in Kabul. Thus, this has made Kabul Afghan as one of the cities with most polluted cities in the world. So, there are several factors that cause the pollution in Kabul, Afghanistan. The first factor is the density of population. One fact about Kabul is that it's one of the most populated city in Afghanistan, where it's the home of 6 million people. The number of people increasing the amount of waste disposal in the Kabul city that estimated produce about 3,527 tons of solid waste per day. Furthermore, large people of Kabul led to higher usage of vehicle and increasing consumption amount of food. The toxic that discharged from the exhaust of vehicle contain carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide that dangerous for human health and impacted the air quality. So it proved that dense population of Kabul giving impact toward environment condition that created air pollution from the vehicle and improper waste management. So the next factor is the unpaved road. Unpaved road are the road with the hard surface, and it can be very dirty and dust. Unpaved road also created a lot of dust, effect gases on the roadside, and causes breathing problem during dry season. When this dust floating in the air causes by the friction produced by the tire on the road, and the dust will cover all the atmosphere. Thus, it will create an unhealthy quality in air Kabul. So, the last factor is low quality fuel. The excessive usage of the low quality fuel for cooking, heating and driving by Afghanistan is among the main contributors to this heavy pollution. People in poverty does not have choice to buy a good quality fuel, but tend to buy a low quality fuel that's cheaper than high quality fuel. In fact, there are about 64% population of Afghanistan still using the coal and charcoal wood fire for burning purpose. The intervention from various stakeholders is needed to ensure the pollution issue can be settled immediately. So, the first intervention is improving the transport sector. The improvement in the transportation sector is one of the key solutions to reduce the air pollution in Kabul. The transport sector generates almost half of world oil output and emits about a fifth of all anthropogenic carbon dioxide emission. Thus, it was necessary to improve the vehicle fuel to reduce greenhouse air emission and air pollution. Next, standardization of vehicle fuel is one of the ways that can reduce the impact of air pollution by reducing the usage of fuel for vehicle per unit of travel. It means the vehicle that being used must have an efficient consumption of fuel. Efficient engine can reduce usage of fuel, also reducing emission that release from the exhaust. And lastly, public awareness to reduce air pollution. So, all the effort that can be implemented cannot be succeed without public awareness in reducing the air pollution. Each solution that be implemented must be exposed to the public to gather their attention and channeling in the right sources, such as in school and university.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Zairul Safullah bin Shamsul Firdaus. Today I will explain about the environmental health analysis and pathway of the air pollution problems in Kabul, Afghanistan. The environmental health analysis and pathway that are shown are the process of how the air pollution became to happen in Kabul and the impact of the air pollution to the residents of Kabul, Afghanistan. Air pollution is a well-known problem that can be faced in any country. Because of it, it can be very fatal for the residents of the country and city. The pollution also can give many impact to the residents of the city, especially in Kabul. It is one of the greatest scourges of our day, not only because of its impact on climate change, but also because of its impact on public and individual health due to increased sickness and possibly death that can happen because of air pollution. The first diagram of the pathway is showing that the process of how the air pollution became to be. First, it comes from the source. The source of the air pollution in Kabul is from the use of the low quality fuel in a high density population. After that, after the source, it goes to the emission. The emission comes from the source, which is the low quality fuel, will emit many kinds of polluted toxins that can go to the air. And after the emission, it will become a concentration that will concentrate the polluted air in the city and will expose next to the citizen of the Kabul city. The exposure will become fatal. It depends on the dose of the air pollution of the polluted air that are being inhaled by the residents of Kabul. After that, they will have many health effects that can be happening to the residents of Kabul. People who are exposed to the excessive levels of air pollution develop diseases, symptoms, and states of varying severity. It is very concerning because of the air pollution already have an impact to the residents of Kabul, which can be seen from the second diagram. This diagram shows there are many problems that come with the air pollution. The first one is there are some people that wanted to move to the less polluted area move from the Kabul city itself. The second part is the skin problems that are haunting the residents of Kabul. The third one is the irritation to eyes, nose and throat of the residents because of the air pollution. It also make the people feeling depressed while living there. They are also worrying about the living environment of their children, and there are also some breathless and people also having more difficulties to breathe inside the city. There are also some people that are doing more to stay healthy and also doing more to look after their skin because of the air pollution. Okay, next we will talk about the upstream intervention. Due to large increase in number of people migrating to Kabul, the inhabitants have been breathing increasingly toxic air produced by vehicle emission, diesel generator fume and smoke from the city. The residents burn wood, coal and oil to heat their homes in the winter. Because of that, the air become more polluted as the people coming in and making it more polluted. To intervene the matter before it became worse, the government produced an environmental law with the help of United Nations Environment Programme. They are supporting that law to decrease the air pollution in the city. According to National Environment Protection Agency, the result of the legislation and accompanying measure, the usage of wood and coal has fallen, and also the diesel and petrol use are reduced because of the people that are changing their car fuel to the liquid petroleum gas, which are more healthy to the air.
There are several downstream intervention plans that were discussed in this chapter. So the first one is the establishing of National Environmental Protection Agency, which is NEPA. The establishment of environmental organization or entity is needed to mitigate the issue. The establishment of NEPA was aiming to develop a certain regulation and policy to enhance the good air quality in short term and long term. The legal environment management that being established in 2005, giving new hope in bettering the environmental, especially for air pollution, that being major issue for them. Next is developing a clear article on environmental law. The establishment of NEPA cannot be hoping as fast tool in solving the environmental issue in Afghanistan. So the Climate Change Directorate was being introduced in 2010 by NEPA and their framework to develop a clear article which an objective to make clear decision in terms of regulation, also planning on a future vision. As you mentioned, if the air pollution problem are not addressed and acted by all parties, it will have a negative impact on health and will also affect the country's economy. Therefore, the people of Kabul need to instill their values to prevent air pollution in Afghanistan. Every community should be more aware of its surroundings and not be selfish to guarantee the cleanliness and beauty of the environment provided by God. So, that's all from me. Thank you.
In conclusion, where during a pandemic, sustaining the flow of supply in the agriculture and food sector is very important in each of the countries around the world. The reason is because in which those sectors is one of the most essential sectors for health.
Individuals' ability to handle their basic requirements in the loss of current income is particularly poor in India, where most of them in the rural area only to earn 15,000 rupees per month. Furthermore, even before the pandemic, there was a serious possibility of the country experiencing a major hunger and malnutrition.
Huge problem in India